Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. This week we continue our discussion with the ladies from the Administrator General's Department. And later we take you around the bend in Kingston and St. Andrew. We have all that and more, so stay tuned as the program unfolds.
Students aged 9 to 12 enter the essay competition. Write 500 words on the topic, how has Jamaican music contributed to the country's growth and development?
All entries must be submitted by Sunday, October 28th.
Prizes and surprises await you in the 2018 Jamaica Information Service Heritage Competition.
If you watched last Sunday's show, then you have a general idea about the roles and functions of the AGD. We continue that discussion next.
Welcome to the final part of a two-part interview with the Administrator General's Department. Last week we spoke about some of the roles and functions of this very important department. If you missed it, here's a recap.
Role of the Administrator General's Department is to administer estates of persons who died without leaving a will and leaving the estate unadministered, where their children under 18 minors.
In 2015, there was an amendment to the Administrator General's Act, which allows the Administrator General to issue its own grant known as Instrument of Administration.
Today, we look at how the AGD assists with handling entitlements of loved ones after death. We are joined once again by Estate Administration Executive, Ms. Ingrid Cole, and Senior Legal Executive, Ms. Kadia Delahaye. Ladies, welcome once again to the program. Good to have you.
Thank you so much for having us again.
So we're going to talk about entitlements firstly. Tell me, how do you go about handling a situation where a child's father dies, but his name is not, his or her name is not on the child's birth certificate? How do we deal with that? How do you deal with that?
Okay, well, certainly the child would not be disinherited. What will happen is that we will require of the child to provide us with proof that he's indeed a beneficiary in the estate and is entitled to benefit from the assets of his or her father. So we will require a declaration of paternity, which can be obtained from the court, any of the courts in Jamaica, the family court or the Supreme Court. There's also an affiliation order, and that may be, maybe the person may have taken the gentleman to court for maintenance. That affiliation order would be accepted. Also, during the lifetime of the parents, if the father had signed documents to say that this is his child, then that would also be accepted. And, incidentally, we are imploring fathers, please put your name on your children's birth certificate. It will help in the long run. And so what we do in the interim, though, the assets, we continue to administer the estate. And so we will call in the assets. We will ascertain what those are, the persons where they used to work, or we'll write to institutions. They may have funds in the bank. And then once we ascertain the assets, then we get the legal document that Ms. Kadia Delahaye spoke to last week.
Yes.
And that document now is used to collect the assets. Once we collect the assets, we invest the funds, and like if they're property, we will rent the property to collect rent, and then we use the funds to take care of the beneficiaries, of course, the proven beneficiaries. So even that child was not yet obtained paternity, that funds would be reserved for that child, that asset,
yes,
until the documents are presented to us in terms of the proof of the relationship to the deceased.
Yes.
So we continue administration, pay up the liabilities, and then the assets that are there we use to take care. So we'll maintain the child, send the child to school, we take care of medical and any other related expenses
Right.
of that
Remind us of
child.
the documents that the parent or the child will need to take.
Okay, so we will require the birth certificate of the child. We also require the form of particulars to be completed. Now, wherever the assets are, bring in the proof of the assets. So if there's a motor vehicle, bring in the certificate of fitness, certificate of registration, the insurance, and the motor vehicle title. Bring those in. If there's a registered property, bring in the title, the duplicate certificate of title. If there's no duplicate certificate of title and you have a indenture or any valid land paper,
Yes.
we will take that, whether it's a
Right.
receipt or otherwise. We will take those in.
Okay.
And then after we get the grant of administration, we will advertise, for anybody who may
Yes.
or who may be a creditor then.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then that is, once we ascertain what the creditors, any debts that are paid, we
Yes.
pay the debts in the estate.
Yes.
And then afterwards, the assets that remain will go to the beneficiaries.
Okay.
When the child attains 18,
Yes.
then we distribute the assets to the beneficiaries.
Yes, yes. Let's focus now on the entitlements of spouses. Who is firstly tell us, who is a spouse?
Well, under Jamaican law, spouse includes a person who has gone through the traditional way of marriage, as in you went before a pastor and you got married. And also persons who have been living together as husband and wife for at least 5 years, right? Those persons are classified as spouse. Under Jamaican law, once the person has died intestate,
Right.
the spouse is entitled to benefit depending on, and the share of the spouse depends on the number of children that the deceased would have died leaving. So if it is that at the time of the deceased died leaving one child, then the spouse is entitled to 2/3 of the estate, of the residue estate.
Yes,
and
yes.
when we say residue, we mean after all liabilities have paid, whatever is left, the spouse is entitled to 2/3 of that, including chattels. If you have more than one...
And chattels means property.
No, chattels mean like furniture, jewelry.
Yes.
If this deceased had a personal car, the spouse would also be entitled to those.
Yes.
If the deceased died leaving children, then the spouse is entitled to
And the
half.
spouse is man or woman.
Right, and the spouse can be man or woman. And so the spouse would be entitled to half of the residue of the estate. Previously, there was no requirement. Well, the law did not specifically state that a common law spouse, which is the person, when the person have been living together for 5 years, would require order. The 2015 amendment now requires that the spouse, that a person who is claiming to be a common law spouse, goes to court and obtain a court order establishing that person as such.
Yes.
As it relates to our administration of estate, where we have common law spouse, that person will normally report themselves as a spouse and will require an order. Until they have obtained an order, we don't consider those persons as a beneficiary. We'll have them down as a tentative beneficiary,
Yes, yes.
but until they have obtained that order, they're not legally a beneficiary under the estate.
Okay, all right. Let's move now from the entitlements back to some of your other services. You do carry out some more services,
Yes,
right?
we do.
Let's talk about those.
Yes, we have what you call funeral expense advance.
Yes.
And what that is that we recognize that when persons die and they have assets like funds in the bank and no other named persons are on the account, then they do have a difficulty when it comes to burying the person.
Yes.
So we offer the services of instructing the institution to pay over funds to the funeral home to allow that person to be buried.
Right.
But we require that you submit to us
Yes.
our form of particulars duly completed, the burial order, the invoice from the funeral home, and our processing fee of $2,000,
Yes, yes.
and an ID of the person who is requesting
Okay.
that.
And you also do motor vehicle transfer to spouses. You also help in that regard. Talk to us about that.
Well, motor vehicle transfer to spouses, we offer that service whether or not the estate is with us.
Okay.
However, what we ask the person to do is to do what we call an indemnity, because a spouse is not automatically entitled to a motor vehicle. They're only entitled to it if there are no liabilities. So for estate where we're administering, if it is that there are liabilities and the liabilities will not allow us to transfer the motor vehicle, then we won't. For estates where we're not administering, the person is required to do an indemnity to the Administrator General to say that if indeed there are liabilities, then I'm going to stand the cost and pay back the money. So those are some of the services that we offer.
Well, that's it for our conversation with the Administrator General's Department. We hope you found it useful. Thank you, Estate Administration Executive Ingrid Cole and Senior Legal Executive Keda Della Hay. And thank you for watching. You can find more information on the Administrator General's Department on their various social media platforms. Until next time, take good care.
From ska to rocksteady, reggae and dancehall, Jamaica's music continues to impact the world. And this year, the 8th staging of the JIS Heritage Competition celebrates our vibrant and dynamic musical heritage. I say yeah, I say yeah, what I say, that's what I say. Can you hear me say yeah, yeah, that's what I say, and right now someone else has died.
Students aged 9 to 12 enter the essay competition. Write 500 words on the topic, how has Jamaican music contributed to the country's growth and development?
Give it to me one time. Give it to me 2 times.
Secondary level students enter the poster competition with digital or illustrated pieces, and tertiary level students, the photo competition is for you.
And right now, someone else has.
The topic for the poster and photo competition is Jamaica's music, the stage for growth and development.
Now moonshine, bright tonight, how we are trying to be all night till daylight.
For additional information, visit the JIS website at www.jis.gov.jm. Email heritage essay, heritage poster, heritage photo, all at jis.gov.jm, or call 876-926-3590 to phone.
It's my legacy, all I've got to say. Hey, reggae, my song.
The competition is now open.
And all entries must be submitted by Sunday, October 28th.
Prizes and surprises await you in the 2018 Jamaica Information Service Heritage Competition.
Lord, I feel like crying now. I feel like moving.
Have you been keeping up with our Round the Bend features? If you haven't, then you need to visit our YouTube channel and get to watching. But before you do, check out the scenic beauty of Kingston and St. Andrew.
I am on the southeastern end of the island, washed by the Caribbean Sea, bounded by St. Andrew to the east, west, and the north. I may be little, but guess what? Me talawa. So this isn't really about the history of Kingston, but if it was, I'd tell you that it's been crafted from beneath our shores and extends across the harbor further inland, where the musical beats of ska, reggae, and mento were formed.
The music industry has been quite well documented, and to my recollection, it started more of an effort to play music that other people couldn't play than as an industry. It kind of unearthed that spirit, that creative spirit in Jamaican, and we broke all of the recording rules, but we came up with a product that kind of represented the kind of Jamaican spirit and that indomitable spirit, and it gave a sort of voice or expression to our Africanness. From the 70s, 80s, 90s, Jamaica celebrated a number of great icons. You know, we're talking about the Ernest Smiths, the Pluto Shervintons, the Dennis Browns, you know, the Gregory Isaacs, the Alton Ellis, and then we get into the megastar region, the Jimmy Cliffs and the Peter Tosh, and then the Bob Marleys. Reggae is the soundtrack of our lives, you know. Reggae is of us, about us, with us, and it has remained true to us as a Jamaican expression.
Oh my God. What? I remember the link. So after that tubs of knowledge about Kingston's musical history, you must be hungry. So come, we'll go down a town. It is commonly believed that Coronation Market is located on an old African burial ground and was called Duppy Market before being given its royal name.
Coronation Market, we have melon over here, we have other things, variety. So you can come down and get fruits, vegetables, scallion, onion over there, you name it. Reasonable at a reasonable cost.
Thank you. Bad piece of soup, yeah. If you thought it was only food being offered here in downtown Kingston, then guess again. Do you remember when I told you earlier that Kingston was bordered by St. Andrew? Well, it's time to cross that border and explore the other side. Jamaica is famous for its Blue Mountain grade of coffee, and right now we're at one of the first coffee estates that was founded in the late 1700s. Welcome to Clydesdale.
It's always been an interesting place because the place is full of history, but it's also very interesting from the point of the environment and nature. There's a swimming hole near here where I've been going to swim, and whenever people visit, we always make a trip to Clydesdale. This is the mill house, and there's a vertical water wheel at the other end of the building, outside of the building, that the stream turned, and we can see the remains of the horizontal water wheel that was connected to the water wheel that had the millstones, I think, to grind the coffee. The other interesting feature is that the roof is constructed. You can see the load of the roof comes down to the center as well as out to the walls, and the verticals came down and carried the load through the beams and down through the columns to the ground. This seems to be the residence, and I say that because there's an obvious kitchen area, which is an outside cooking area that's set up with stove and so on. There's a herb garden outside. Inside here you see the remains of toilets and basins. You need to step carefully and watch out for rusty nails. There's a fireplace, which is an upstairs and downstairs fireplace.
Clydesdale is a nice place. The environment, the climate, the river them, you know, it's nice, and you come by Clydesdale and you can just sit in, you can observe a fresher breath. For them say by the tree, you live more healthier.
We've been having so much fun today, and our time together is almost over. But before it does, I have a surprise just for you. I bet you thought that was a surprise, but nope, we're not there yet, so let's keep going. Nestled in the hills of St. Andrew in the Bowden district, opposite the Hermitage Dam, it's the scenic Falling Edge Waterfalls. Let's go. Do I go to the right or do I go to the left? Guys, take the left. I hope you had a great time on the scenic tour of Kingston and St. Andrew. Don't just sit and watch it on your TV. Go on out and explore. These and other parishes await.
We share a lot of sensitive information and data, and once criminals get access to this information, indeed people are at risk based on the sensitivity of the information that they share.
There are lots of artifacts out there that are the repositories of our island's history. Today we visit the Jamaica National Heritage Trust to find out how they preserve some of those artifacts.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the headquarters house, home of the Jamaica National Heritage Trust. We're going to take you through some of the ropes in the methods in conservation, so please come along with us. Thanks for joining us in our conservation lab. We have here working with us Mr. Darrington Ferguson as well as Mr. Frank Gale, and we'll be looking at some of the methods they will be applying to different material types for the preservation of our material culture of Jamaica. First of all, we have here some cannonballs that are usually found with some extent of corrosion. Mr. Ferguson is actually removing mechanically some of the concretion from a cannonball, and after he has removed that, then we would wire it. This wired metal object we would then install in our electrolytic tank. In the process of electrolysis, what we are actually doing, we are primarily reversing the process of corrosion. Once it has been electrolyzed, it would look something like this. So we would then proceed to brush to remove any loose rust that would be left on it. We would then put the iron object in some pure water, which we call deionized water, and that would be heated to ensure that the metal itself would facilitate the extraction of any impurities that might be left in the body of the iron. After that, we would dry the iron object. Most times we dry it in alcohol, and that would remove the water from the body of the object. And after drying, we would take a substance we call tannic acid, applying several coats, and it would form somewhat a stable surface for the iron object. And then the final stage is waxing to provide a coating or a lacquer on the surface of the iron object. Here we have Mr. Gale. He's actually applying orthophosphoric acid to remove slight rusting or corrosion from the case of a sword. He is actually using what we call a chemical as well as a mechanical means of so doing. We have close to it the extractor system, which is used to remove harmful fumes from the atmosphere in order to make the environment a much healthier one in which and a safer one for us to work. Lead corrodes by forming mainly lead sulfide and lead carbonate. So we would be soaking it first of all in ammonium acetate, and that would basically remove within a few hours the lead carbonate. In order to remove any residue of ammonium acetate that might be left on the lead, we would then rinse it quickly for a short time period. Just rinse it in a bath of a very dilute solution of hydrochloric acid. If there are any corrosion left at that stage, then we would remove that mechanically, either very likely with a glass bristle brush. After that, we do as we would with the iron. Coming over here now, we have copper or copper material. We have been soaking this copper in a substance we prepare in the lab, which we call alkaline Rochelle salt. The alkaline Rochelle salt will remove from it largely what we call bronze disease. So we soak it in the solution. The chemical will dissolve the bronze disease. After that has been dissolved, then we would rinse in, for example, a dilute solution of sulfuric acid to remove any slight impurities or corrosion product that might be left there. After that, we will, as we do with the other metals, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you were well informed by the information we've imparted today, and you're welcome to join us at any time, particularly at our heritage sites. And when you see our heritage sites, you see the artifacts that are there, you will appreciate to a greater extent the effort that has gone into its preservation.
Mommy? Yes, sweetie? How can I change my world?
You can change your world by being polite.
Good morning.
Good morning. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Miss.
With just one action.
We can change the world with acts of random kindness.
Stay kind, act kind, be kind.
Keep we island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it. Keep we island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it.
No dash, no paper, no dash, no plastic. Dispose your garbage responsibly. No know how to recycle, learn it quick. And if you drop it, better pick up every piece of it. Plastics last forever, don't forget the bits. Cause when them touch the street, them end up in the sea. Collect pan the reef where the fish them feed. And when you want seafood, I eat your
Keep
eat.
the island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it. No dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica.
Thanks for watching another edition of Jamaica Magazine. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll do this all over again. Until then, send us your feedback on today's show to jamaicamagazine@gis.gov.jm. Also, follow us on our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, there is Twitter. Download our app on your Apple and Android devices, and you can also visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for more information. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.